following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hentz, and anyone who knows me, you don't even have to know me well. You just have to know me to know that I am a huge proponent for animal rights, animal welfare, love pets, especially dogs and cats. And so I have done a lot of shows over the course of the 12, 13 years that we've been on animal welfare and adoption and the horrors of puppy mills and so forth. And we're going to continue that tonight. I'm very pleased to welcome to the show for his first time here, Jim Deering. It's not Daring, it's Deering, right?
Yep.
Okay, I got it. And Joe, your business partner
Yep.
and so forth, was going to be here, but he's not. So we're sorry that he can't be here, but we're happy that you are. Jim is the founder and president of N.E.W, or New Pawsibilities, here in Oshkosh, and he's going to tell us all about what New Pawsibilities are, how they came up with the name, and so on and so forth. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you having
We've tried to have you on a couple of times, and you have had a terrible history with sickness lately.
It's been a rough winter. It's been a very rough winter.
For everybody, so I'm glad that you were able to be here tonight.
I appreciate it.
So, am I pronouncing that right by saying New Pawsibilities? Because I
Correct.
know it's an acronym,
Yep.
and there's periods there.
So it stands for Northeast Wisconsin Pawsibilities.
Okay.
Our primary goal is the dogs of Northeast Wisconsin. That was always our main focus. Things have shifted a little in the time that we've been open now, and we're helping dogs in a broader range. But that was what the N.E.W stood for.
Okay. And so is that how you came up with the name, Jim? Just because you are focusing on the Northeast Wisconsin area, or was there...
It just felt right when we and all of a sudden to put the periods where it's like Northeast Wisconsin, it made sense to, we're giving the dogs a new possibility and
Sure.
starting a new life, so it just kind of all fit. And like I say, our goal was to concentrate in the Fox Valley, Wisconsin area, and unfortunately, like I say, things changed as we have grown and changed, and we've broadened that.
Your business plan always has to evolve, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? Every day
we
it's
have
evolving.
changed a lot in a matter of 3 years and a couple months.
Right. So 3 years, a little less than 3.5 years.
Correct.
You've been in existence, and you're down on Algoma.
Correct.
Tell us exactly where,
Sure,
so people
if,
can put a face to it.
We're
if
about
you
a
will.
mile and a half off of Highway 41, heading into town. If people are familiar with Lakeside Vet Clinic or House of Flowers, we are on the same side of the street as that, about 3 blocks down from House of Flowers.
Yeah, just a little bit west of there.
Correct.
So.
And it's been a great location for us. It's very convenient for people to find us. And people that are a little scared to drive in Oshkosh and not sure if they can find it have no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, well, and that road is not terribly heavily traveled. Except maybe at certain times of the day when people are heading to and from work.
But it's worked out well for people coming from the Wausau area or New London and that type of thing. It's very convenient to get into town, and it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah. Now we call it a business, and I guess in a way it is, but it's a non-profit business, correct?
We are a nonprofit 501c3. We were just finally granted that back in September. It was retroactive back to when we started, but we are state of Wisconsin and federal. We are a 501c3.
Okay, excellent. Now, I know when you first started this organization, and I really didn't know what you were.
Yeah.
I'm driving down Algoma. You know, I'd come from making my rounds at the cemeteries, and I'm driving down Algoma, and I see this sign there, and I thought, what is that? That must be related to animals, because there's a dog trainer in town who uses a Pawsibility type
Correct.
thing, sort of. It's positive.
Yep, exactly.
Directions, and so I thought, it's got to be related to animals, but I wonder what they are. And I went on the website, and most of what I saw then
Right.
were Pitbull mixes, which that really is kind of a misnomer anyway. There is no true such thing
Right.
as a pit bull.
Correct.
They're like bull terriers or Staffordshire terriers and that kind of thing.
Correct.
But you know, they're of the bully breed, if you will.
Right.
And I'm sure you probably feel the same way I do, Jim. They're not necessarily a dangerous dog.
Correct.
It's how they're raised, how they're bred.
Correct.
But I did notice that you seem to have mostly the pit mixes at the
Correct.
time. And now you've got a wide range of everything. And later on in the hour, we've got some pictures of some dogs that
Right.
you guys have available for adoption and so forth. But how did you just kind of start out with the pit mixes?
We were actually originally basically opened the doors not quite knowing how we were even going to bring our dogs in or anything. And a friend of mine worked with Kashina Indian Reservation, and we were helping her with her dogs that was struggling to place, that had sat in foster care for months, sometimes years. And she said, would you be willing to try? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll give it a shot. And so at that time, that's pretty much what we were getting in. And it worked out well. We were able to place all those dogs. Harold, our first placement, had sat in foster care for about a year and a half, and we got him placed in a couple months, and he still comes in for his bath and his grooming every couple of weeks, and has become an awesome family member, and the family has adopted 2 other dogs from us. But basically we evolved to realize that you have to look at this and give a wide variety for people to be able to come in your door and keep the doors open. We can fill the entire shelter with pits.
Yeah.
They're not going to place, and so we try and balance things out. It's the same with hounds. There's breeds that are not as fast to place, so we try and balance things out. So what has evolved is basically we pull a lot of dogs from Kentucky. We've started working about 3 years ago with 2 high-kill shelters down in Kentucky that we're taking in about 20 to 25,000 dogs a year at these 2 shelters and euthanizing 99% of them. And it just kind of was a fluke. A friend of a friend said, can you take a few? And we're like, well, that's not our mission, but we'll try it. And they were phenomenal. They were just the greatest dogs. And all the workers down in Kentucky sent us messages saying, oh my God, it was such a party that you took these dogs that nobody else wanted. They were going to be euthanized, and they'd been here, and we tried hiding them as long as we could. And so it was just a really great thing for us. And we decided, let's try that every so often. Let's bring a transport up. And we got hooked up with another organization out of Illinois called Starfish Rescue, and they get the transport from Kentucky to Illinois, and then we meet them down in Illinois, and we pick up our dogs that we have picked out. So like Saturday was supposed to be another transport, but Kentucky kind of got snowed in, so
Yeah.
we've postponed that one until next week.
Yeah.
But so every week we're basically looking at pictures that are being sent from those shelters. So it's given us a wider variety. It's helped the shelters down there. We're helping the community down there. We've made a huge dent. People are finally starting to spay and neuter their animals down there. Their spay clinics we'd have to beg people to come. Now they're booking out a month in advance, and so people are doing the spaying and neutering. And if they bring in a litter of puppies, they must bring the mom in to get spayed. So it is really working, and we're gaining.
Sure.
And so that's like I say, our mission statement has changed some, but we've really been able to get a nice wide variety of people, get a lot of people in the door that, want something different, and we've been able to find that for them.
Sure. People might be sitting at home watching this and saying, we've got so many dogs here
Right.
that need placement. Why would you bring some dogs up from southern
Sure.
states? And I'll let you answer that, but I'll try and answer it
Sure.
as well, because I used to serve on the board of directors for the Humane Society here,
Okay.
for the Oshkosh Area Animal Shelter. I have a few volunteer positions with the Humane Society of the U.S. I have worked with rescue operations for probably about 14 or 15 years now, doing home visits, doing transports, which we can explain to folks what that is. I mean, it seems self-explanatory, but when you're doing rescue work, it's cool how it all comes together,
Right.
but people don't understand,
It's a
and so
lot
we
of
should
work.
probably explain what a transport really is in a little bit,
Sure.
and talk about that. But and some of the shelter, or the rescue groups rather, that I work with also bring dogs up from the south.
Yep.
One in particular gets every one of her dogs from Alabama. And the reason that I believe they're all coming from there is they didn't promote spay-neuter
Correct.
the way they should have. And many places in the South, they're euthanizing these dogs. They're so massively overrun with dogs
Yes.
that if the time period is 5 days or 7 days, when that time is up, you're
Some of
done.
them have 24 hours from the time they walk in.
24 hours.
They will literally tell people, your dog is going to be euthanized the minute you sign this dog over. We're too full. And we've been able to change that.
Then why even take the animal?
And that's
know.
the struggle.
And also, there are still, as horrific as it sounds, there are still places in the South that, because they have so many dogs to euthanize, they use gas chambers
Absolutely.
still.
Absolutely.
And we think of gas chambers like in the days of Hitler, but it's the same kind of cruelty.
But worse.
Yeah, for dogs.
Yes.
And if you're interested in just seeing what kind of a horrific thing that is, you can go on YouTube and you can find videos of dogs being put to death in gas chambers. The howling and the crying, the screaming, it's awful.
Yep. And
It's
the way
awful.
They'll
And
pack them in there.
that should be just outlawed.
Agreed.
It should just be done away with.
Agreed.
It's too barbaric.
Absolutely.
But that's why. So, all of us in animal rescue and welfare are trying to save as many dogs' lives as we can, and they're getting placed.
And we've done a great job in Wisconsin. We really have,
Yeah.
getting the spay-neuter in people's heads, and people keep their animals. It's different up here. They really do treat an animal like a family member. It's not a pet, and that there's just a different mindset in the Midwest, and very few shelters in the state of Wisconsin don't pull from somewhere, whether it's Illinois or another area, and that's great. I'm glad we're able to help. It's just the mindset has changed about that. The stigma of the Southern dog. You still have some that don't understand why, but we're here to try and educate, and that's it. Really has made a difference. Like the two shelters, they were at 98.5% in 2011 for euthanasia on 25,000 dogs. We've cut that down to 9%.
Wow.
In 2 years.
That is wonderful.
And they're able to hold the dogs longer, and now they're flying dogs out to other states that would be hard placements, but they're able to get them out. They've got the resources. They don't have to say, well, you're a hard placement, we need to euthanize you. So it really has made a difference down there, and the community is responding.
Sure. And if shelters aren't necessarily pulling from other shelters, they're sometimes swapping dogs with other
Absolutely.
shelters.
We do that
We
too.
had gotten a dog many, many years ago, maybe, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, something like that, who had actually come from Sheboygan, from the shelter there. And the shelter here swapped, he wasn't, there was no one interested really
Yep.
there. And the shelter here had a dog that no one was really interested in. They made a swap. And it was a happy ending for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yep.
And so,
We've done that a
you
few
just
times
try
here, and it
different
works
creative
great.
ideas to make things work.
And that was kind of the goal originally with the Northeast Wisconsin, is we wanted to basically form a coalition of rescues and shelters and humane societies, and just say, somebody calls and we've got this dog. Who can take it? Let's make a phone call. Well, that phone call now reaches 4 people, and we kind of make this net and bring that dog in, and it doesn't have to be euthanized. If there's resources out there, let's keep it alive. It doesn't mean that some dogs, unfortunately, don't need to be put down. And, there are dogs that are dangerous to society and that sometimes have such severe medical issues that they cannot be saved. So we're not saying every dog has to be kept alive or that we should place a dangerous dog. They need to be tested. But if there's a dog that's just going to be a little more difficult and needs some training, let's have a resource that we can make that happen.
Sure, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned about that, Jim, because, even dogs who stay in a shelter environment for a long period of time, their temperament can deteriorate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why it's important to, I don't want it to seem like they're on some kind of a revolving door, but it's good to get them moved in and out as quickly as possible.
Exactly. That makes a difference. And like I say, if you have a dog that does stay in a shelter too long, just changing the environment can help the mental stimulation, and just, we had a dog from East Shore that was there for 3 years. And the dog had gone very kennel crazy and would just walk and jump and walk and jump. And that's all he did. We got him into our building and put him on the treadmill, and he was doing 6 miles a day and was just turning into a different dog. Within 6 weeks of being there, he got him placed. He comes in for his baths and stuff and doesn't have to be on a leash anymore. He just is amazing. But that dog sat in a shelter for 3 years. And they had reached out to many groups, and they said, no, we're not taking a troubled dog like that. And we were able to get him placed. And we've formed a great relationship with East Shore.
Yeah, I mean, that's, isn't it wonderful how resilient a lot of dogs can
Absolutely.
be? And if you just give them love and patience and time,
Absolutely.
it can make a world of difference.
bet.
And that's a classic example
Absolutely.
right there
Yeah.
of such a transformation.
Right, absolutely. And that's, people assume sometimes that a rescue dog is a damaged dog. They may be, but that doesn't mean, it doesn't necessarily. And, you may get the greatest dog and go, why would a person give this dog up? Well, financially, where they're coming from, people have learned, well, they're going to have a chance. We're not going to just put them to death. They're going to get out and they're going to have a chance. So they feel it's better for the dog to send them up from Kentucky.
Sure.
And a lot of people make that sacrifice that, yes, it's a great dog, but we can't afford to keep it anymore.
Yeah.
And, people get some pretty amazing dogs. And it is heartwarming to get those calls. And I get them every day that, holy cow, this dog is just amazing. And you said, it wasn't house trained, but it's been perfect. And that's really cool to get that.
Or the pictures, of
Absolutely.
the dogs in their new home, their
Absolutely.
new forever home,
Absolutely.
all happy, and the family members all sitting around hugging it and
Yep.
loving on it.
When
And
we have a bad day, we put a message on Facebook and say, we need some positive. And all of a sudden those stories start pouring in. It's
Yep.
really amazing.
It's heartwarming, it really is. And the difference that you're making in the dogs' lives.
Right.
I was curious, you mentioned about a treadmill that you put that dog on. You've got a treadmill there for the animals?
Yeah, we've got it. It's a
Really?
regular treadmill, but it's got sides on it and a front, and we can hook them up and we stay with them and make sure that they can get their exercise on a day like today where a dog is just a little, isn't able to. All of our dogs are in large groups. They're not in kennels, so they're in play group 13 hours a day, and they've got indoor outdoor access all day long, and they play with their other dog friends, and they only go in their kennels at night and at feeding time. Now you get those certain dogs that once in a while cannot be with other dogs, and those are the ones which in this type of weather we try and get them on the treadmill, and get them their exercise, and it really works. It makes them mentally focus, and it just change. And they get so excited once they get comfortable with the treadmill. They get so excited because they know where they're going.
I'll have to stop by and take a look at that setup because we've got a couple dogs that, it's so cold right now to try and walk
Absolutely.
dogs. And, the one, he'd probably like to go walking too, but
Right.
he's happy to just kind of run around in the yard. But there are two in particular that could really use some treadmill
Yeah,
stuff.
there's
and
some that absolutely go on it and go, "Pfft, I've been doing this for all my life," and some go, "What do you expect?" But you start out slow and you lose a lot of good treats.
Yeah, I'll have to swing by and look at the setup, how you've got it. What is your actual background, Jim, with regard to animals?
I was a dairy farmer
Okay.
for many years, about 20 years. I was a dairy farmer. I grew up in Kaukauna. We had a family dairy farm, and then I went off on my own when we ended up having to sell the farm after my mother's passing. And went on my own and farmed for many years. And then decided to get out of that when I was about 32 and went into some sales and that type of thing. And then ended up coming in contact with Saving Paws out of Appleton. And ended up going on as their manager for a little while. And really got my feet wet there and really loved it. I mean, I've always honestly, what I've been able to have with what we have now is something I envisioned 20 years ago. It literally is exactly what I wanted, and just didn't know it would ever come true.
Yeah.
But just really have always been passionate. On the farm, people would dump cats all the time, and I'd get them in, get them fixed, get them healthy, and that type of thing. So I was always that type of person. But so then once I left Saving Paws, we kind of did our own thing for a little while, and I was helping take in dogs that had bite histories, and that the vet didn't feel needed to be euthanized, but just needed work. So we would work with them one-on-one for sometimes up to a year, and get them into homes, and they've all done well. We did 7 in about 2 years, and they've all done really well. But then when this opportunity kind of presented itself that we wanted to jump in, the building was there, and we had a landlord that is out of this world, and said, let's go for it.
Well, that helps. Saving Paws in Appleton, I probably have delivered a couple dogs to you guys in a transport in the past. Because I do, and let's talk about that since we're still talking about transports. How these work, and you can join in, but I know the ones that where I'm working directly with a rescue operation, they're pulling the animals from wherever, in some cases, most cases, usually the south, as we talked about, and they set up people who want to help transport dogs. You're on a mailing list, an email list, and when they have X number of dogs, it can be 1 or 2, it can be 24.
Right.
Or more,
Right.
And then they need 2 drivers per leg, and they call a leg like maybe from Fond du Lac to Green Bay or whatever, and that's usually the run that I do.
Okay.
Or I'll go like Beaver Dam to Appleton or something like that. But you move these dogs from one place in the country and maybe 50, 60 miles, maybe 30 miles, and there are drivers in each of these communities set to go, and you just move the dogs from 1 or 2 vehicles that they're in to the next set of vehicles, and you're on your way. Leave them out for a potty break for a few minutes, and then you're on your way. Yep. The last huge group of dogs I transported was from Beaver Dam to Appleton, and it was 12 puppies. They were in 3 different crates in my vehicle, and I thought, oh God, 12 puppies. I was happy to do it, but I thought there is going to be so much yipping and play fighting. And honest to God, Jim, once we got going, one had a little poopy accident. Okay, you can't drive that kind of distance with that smell, so you stop, you clean it up real quick. You keep cleaning supplies in your vehicle, and you clean it up. But honestly, other than that, those dogs, once the car started going, they went to sleep. You didn't even know there were dogs in the car.
Exactly.
You just thought you were in the car with your friend, and that was it,
Yep.
But I'll tell you, what you're doing is heartwarming and rewarding, and any part of animal rescue is just as equally heartwarming and rewarding. Every time I drop a dog off at another rescue operation or to its forever home, or as I like to say, its forever home, and that's not unique, a lot of people say that, I just feel so good inside.
Right.
Because I've saved another dog's life, and every other person on that run has saved a life. We've played a part in that.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge need for that.
Absolutely, and we're fortunate with our transports. It's basically, we use, like say, Starfish Rescue out of Illinois. They drive almost all the way to the shelter in Kentucky.
Oh, they do?
Yes,
Wow,
and
that's
they've
quite
got drivers that they drive all the way down, and then the shelters will meet them partway and transport out, and then they drive back. It's about 7 hours back to Illinois, and then we drive our van down to Illinois in Bloomingdale, load our dogs up and come back. So we're lucky enough to be able to do it kind of in a real smooth, easy transition.
Sure.
But, we're usually transporting 20 plus each time.
Yeah.
So it makes it nice when we can load them onto one vehicle, and then they get to Illinois. And sometimes there's 150 on the van when they get into Illinois. And then they split them off to the other rescue groups, and we get ours that we picked out, and away we come.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if anyone out there watching is interested in becoming part of a dog transport operation, you could give Jim a
Absolutely.
call. You could get in touch with
We're
me.
always looking for drivers.
Yep, or you could just Google or Bing search, animal rescue groups, and you'll find a lot of them.
You bet.
And just send them an email. Ask them if they ever need transport help.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't have to do a lot once you're there. A lot of times the other groups will help you load up and everything else. You don't have to, expend a lot of energy other than driving.
Right. And, it's not even like you're doing a transport every single weekend.
Right, exactly.
The last transport I did, I'm trying to think now, I know I had one in October, and it seems to me I've had one since then. But, I mean, we're into almost the end of February
Right.
now, and that's not that much.
Right.
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 But it's a lot.
It really is, and that's exactly it.
What do you work at all with the animal shelter here in town, or are you guys kind of separate entities?
We are separate entities.
Okay.
We're always open to it, but it just has not come to fruition at all. So, but we are separate.
Do you view them as competition?
Never.
Or, okay.
No rescue group. I do not see any rescue group as competition. I view it as what can we do to save the dogs. I mean, it really is, to me, the grand scheme is what are we doing for the dogs?
Okay.
And so I don't have any pride when it comes to the dogs and somebody says, I think I can place that dog. We work with Marinette Menominee Shelter. A lot of times they have bigger dogs that they struggle to place, and she'll call and ask if I can take them. And this last time I said, I've got a few smaller dogs that I'm not placing real fast. Would you be interested? And she's like, oh, I never get small dogs. Yes. So I sent 8 dogs up to her, and within 2 days she had all of them placed. And they had sat by me for about 3 weeks. And that's a long time by us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not about, these are my dogs. Let's get them in a home.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what it's about for me.
And of course, when I said, are you separate entities?
Yeah.
I realize that
Right.
you are separate entities. I guess what I was trying to say, Jim, is, do you work or network with them at all? And so far,
Unfortunately
it
not.
hasn't
Correct.
happened. Okay. But you're not opposed to it.
No, not
so,
at all.
What is your average turnaround time for placing
2 weeks
dogs?
is pretty common. 10 days to 2 weeks.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we're very, and that's, most of them have to come in, get fixed. And so they typically arrive on a Saturday. They're going into the vet anywhere between Monday and Wednesday. They're getting fixed. They're getting their shots. We're getting their pictures taken. They go online by Saturday. And a lot of times by Friday, by that following Saturday, they're finding their homes.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Our longest
do you,
placement's been like
Do you
4 months.
microchip also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody gets heartworm tested and microchipped if they're over 6 months.
Okay. All right, that's
And
good.
we now have a vet on staff that's working part-time with us.
Oh, you do?
Yes, Dr. Joey Buda has come on board.
Okay.
And so he's going to be offering low-cost vaccination clinics for the community as well.
Oh, that's great.
And we're looking to hopefully find a location that we can do some holistic medicine and things like that, and hopefully someday have a mobile vet clinic that he can be doing spay and neuter clinics right out of that.
That's wonderful.
So
Yeah.
we want to help the Fox Valley.
Sure, absolutely. What kind of screening or application process do you have for adoption?
Fairly simple. We do have a 3-page application. Asks a lot of just general questions, and then I've done every single adoption. Nobody else has had their hand on that, so I can read people very well. That helps. Try and fit the right dog to the right person. And with our dogs all being in large groups, people don't just wander through the building. We have the computer set up. They look at what they want to see, and we try and pick out 3 to 4 and say, this would be the best. Let's see. Those 4, let's meet them and see. So I do a lot of talking, and then once the application is, basically we're going to do a landlord check if they rent, 2 personal reference checks, and people always say, well, would they put a reference that would say anything negative? You'd be amazed. How many people say don't,
Yeah.
do not, they're not good. And we do a vet check, and then that's pretty standard, and I do a background check. And that's pretty much it. But it's been very effective for us.
Sure. Well, and we should probably talk a little about that, because one of the complaints that I had heard about shelters in general is that, and that's true of rescue groups too, is that the application process seems so vigorous, if you
Absolutely.
will. And it's really, yeah, they ask questions.
Right.
You know, they ask serious questions. You know, if you move, what are you going to do with this
Right.
dog?
Absolutely.
Now, most people might say, well, of course I'd take it with me, but there's a lot of people who don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I was a landlord and talking to other landlords, I would never, thankfully, had it happen to me, but I would hear from other landlords who had allowed pets. They've just, you know, the tenants abandoned a dog, abandoned a cat,
Yep.
you know, leave it with no food or water.
Right.
And sometimes it's there for weeks,
Yep.
sometimes just days, but
Right.
still, go 4 or 5 days without eating and
Right.
see how that makes you feel.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you have to, you don't want to get a dog back.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
want to put it in the proper home and make sure that it stays there, because
Absolutely.
that's a lot on a dog's psyche.
That's exactly it. That's
You
my
know?
biggest thing is that, you know, when somebody's talking about it's not the right fit, you know, we've had the dog for 24 hours and it's not working. We say, take a breath and let's step back. Let's slow down a little bit. This dog's been through a lot. We have a canine behaviorist on staff as well, and she is at their disposal to ask questions and come in home and do, you know, help them through this. So we try and, you know, ease them into it when they're having little anxieties, and it's worked really well to keep dogs in place, you know, in their homes. And we, with the application process, it can go very fast. Sometimes it takes me a half hour, and I'll tell people, you're approved. I don't feel it has to take weeks or days or anything. As long as I'm comfortable and I feel like it's the right fit for the dog and the application checks out, we can move forward. And we try to make it painless for people and not feel like, oh, well, I'm not going to have a chance of getting this. 5 other people are looking at the same. You know, we try and make it very easy for people and that they can find what they're looking for.
Okay.
And sometimes they come in looking for one and end up leaving in a totally different direction because we've had a chance to talk and that's not the right fit for your home.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, I was just thinking of something, and I
Apologize.
completely spaced it. No, it's not your fault. I completely spaced it out, but I will think of it, I'm sure. So, what's your adoption fee? There's another thing.
It does vary sometimes, and we try and accommodate, you know, special needs people and things like that. But typically, anything over 6 months is $265.
Okay.
The dog is fixed, current on shots, heartworm tested, microchipped. We try and get everything out of the way, and they're on heartworm and flea and tick preventative, and they've been dewormed. So all of that is out of the way. So that's where our fee is. We do use, you know, Wellness Vet Clinic in Neenah, and he's got, you know, great prices for us for spays and neuters, but we do still pay what people off the street would pay. And so we have to kind of recoup our vet bills. And then if it's a puppy under 6 months, we really prefer not to get them fixed until they're about 6 months of age. So we provide a certificate to use at Wellness Vet Clinic at 6 months of age.
Okay.
And that covers the spay or neuter, but they'll have all their age-appropriate shots and everything like that. And it's been really successful using the certificate.
Okay. What if it's like a senior dog? Because I know that in
Right.
some places, if it's over a certain age,
Correct.
there'll be a discounted price
Yep.
for that.
Then it depends on the dog and, you know, what we're dealing with. But typically, if it's a senior, it's free. We
Really?
do free adoptions, but I'm very specific on who gets that animal.
Sure.
My big thing is I try to help the low-income housing and stuff. The one woman called the other day, and she's like, "I think you've helped our apartment find dogs for every apartment, and I've got a few more." And she, you know, I try and work with them because we know the benefit that it's helping people that are, you know, seniors or mentally challenged or whatever. It's really been a great fit. So we do try and provide a lot of free adoptions for that type of situation.
Okay.
And, you know, even if I've had to do everything, we try our best. We can't do it with everybody, obviously, but we try and find the right fits.
Sure. Well, that's great. Let me take a look here at my questions because I kind of want to stay in the order that I have them, but I feel like there's so many other things coming up here. So the average adoption process, you said it can, you know, take a couple days or...
Typically,
and that's,
honestly, half hour to an hour is pretty standard as far as once the application's been submitted.
Okay.
We usually end up spending longer than that meeting with the dogs and that type of thing, and letting the family interact with them and seeing what the best fit is or bringing their dog in. But once the application's in, it's pretty fast, and I'm pretty comfortable by that point that I go, yep, this person's going to be approved, or we need to lose the application.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some of those too. If someone does have current pets at home, do you want them to for sure bring the pets in, or do you kind of leave it up to them?
We do leave it up to them somewhat. If they start describing something and then are looking at another dog, and I go, you need to bring your animal in for that situation. I think we need to meet. If they've got a 12-year-old dog that goes to the dog park and doesn't have an issue, then we kind of leave it up to them. Or they're a dog that is stressed out riding in the car and like it's going to be a big challenge, the dog's going to be stressed. Then we leave it up to them. We always tell them, you know your dog better than we do. Here's what I can tell you about the dog you're looking at. You make that decision. And we're there to help if need be, and our behavior consultant will be there at their home if need be or whatever.
Sure.
But so we do somewhat leave it up to the adopter.
Okay. I know at the animal shelter here in town, if you're a city resident, because they are a little bit funded by the city,
Right.
you can surrender your animal there free of charge.
Correct.
If you need to surrender it. Do you take surrenders also?
We do. We take
Okay.
surrenders. It does vary. Again, it's a matter of if I get 6 surrender calls a week and they're all pits, we've got to talk about, what the behavior issues are. If there's dogs that have not been fixed or this or that, we may charge a nominal fee just to cover that expense. And,
Sure.
We feel you took the responsibility of taking this animal on. You didn't follow through on your responsibility by getting the animal fixed. You should have to pay a little something to cover that. So we do take surrenders, and like I say, it varies on the animal.
Do you do home visits when you are adopting out or no?
Typically not.
Okay.
And there are times where we've had to, where we just get a feeling that there's something not quite right, and everything else sort of looks well on the application, but we will at least do a drive-by and just see if what they're telling us is right. But typically, like I say, the references and things give us a lot of information.
Sure.
And especially, and the landlords, the amount of people that put in that they can have an animal, and I call every single landlord. I'm very specific that I don't want to upset any of the landlords in the
Yeah.
area, especially. And the amount of people go, no, that's not part of their lease.
Yeah, yeah. When I was a landlord, I always allowed pets because the last thing I wanted to do was tell someone, you have to leave one of your family members behind.
Right.
And two, not all college students are bums who don't properly take care of pets.
Absolutely.
Some of my best tenants, have been very responsible
Absolutely.
with their pets.
And we do the college student adoptions, but at that situation, if there's 3 or 4 people living in the home, they all need to come in. We need to discuss who's taking full responsibility for this animal. You're all part of it, but when summer comes, who's responsible and things like that.
And are you all okay with
Absolutely.
having an animal in the house?
We had one last week where one of the roommates is like, I don't want a dog. I have no desire. And I said, right there, we're not going any further. It's just not the right fit at this time. And everybody needs to be comfortable in the home.
Yeah. Well, and somebody might have an allergy too.
Right.
And, you just can't have that. So we've talked about, a lot about dogs. Do you have other animals there?
We do a little bit with cats, not a whole lot at this time. We were never really going to get into the cats, but my soft heart kind of got me into a few, and I always keep some on hand. We work with them a little bit, but our main focus is the dogs. That's what we have the space for. But I usually have 5 to 10 cats available as well.
Okay.
And basically no adoption fee on the cats. We ask for a bag of food or a bag of litter. We do a basic application on them as well, and that's worked out well.
Okay. The hair on the back of my neck always goes up when I hear people say that they give away animals, and not so much in your case, but are you ever concerned about these people coming in who get the animals and then they sell them to an experimental lab or something?
We still do our full background check and things like that,
Okay,
and so it's not just here you go. We still feel comfortable, and there are, like I said, your gut tells you a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, we've been very comfortable. Most of the time, it's people that have adopted from us prior, and that really has been our biggest base, especially with the cats. They've adopted a dog, they had a great experience, they come back and, oh, you got a cat, we saw that. So, you know, that's been our biggest base, and we've had really good luck with it.
Sure. And I'm sure when you've got someone who's previously adopted from you, that application's probably approved.
Absolutely.
I know that's the position I'm in with the shelter now. Oh, Cheryl, you want a dog?
Exactly.
Come get
exactly. And that's the thing, you know, you
know?
you form those relationships, and we
Yeah.
have so many families that have done 1, 2, 3 dogs now, and or you know, multiple animals, and it's worked out really well, and we love that kind of situation. And I'll be honest, there are times where people come in for a cat or something, and I'll be, well, it's a $75 or $100 adoption fee. You just, like I say, you get that gut.
Yeah.
And you kind of know. You just kind of, each situation, you know, kind of plays itself out.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about adoption fees and not giving animals away like free to a good home, I just want to put this word of caution out there. And if I'm missing something, feel free to jump in or just add whatever you think is necessary. You know, so many times you'll see free to good home ads in the newspaper, on Craigslist, that's the new thing.
Yep.
And they think that they're doing a good thing, and their heart is in the right place. But what people need to be aware of, and I can't caution folks enough on this, there are unscrupulous, unkind people out there who are just greedy for the almighty buck. They will prey on these. They look specifically for these free to good home ads. They will take your dog or your cat, and they'll come off as very loving, very compassionate toward animals, and they'll assure you that they're going to give it a good home. And as soon as they leave, they turn right around and they sell it to a lab where horrible, horrible things are done to it. Terrible experiments are done on it. I mean, in some cases, I've heard of Drano being poured down dogs' throats to see how well the product works. Do we really need to still be doing this? We know Drano is a good product. That would tick me off. I almost said something else. That would tick me off and turn me away from Drano right there. You know?
Agreed.
I mean, so please, even if you're asking like $25, $35, it's enough to make it not worth it for them to pursue your beloved pet, because we know you're trying to do the right thing. It's the other person that you have to be aware
And when I
of.
have people that call that say, you know, we're thinking about doing that with putting an ad on Craigslist, I just tell, if you're not willing to surrender it to a shelter or a humane society, do your homework then. Get an application on these people. Do a background check. Talk to them. Don't just have them walk up to your front door and you hand them your animal. See whether you're comfortable. Do a home visit. You know, if you don't be afraid to say, I'm not comfortable just giving my animal over to you. I want to see where it's going to live. At least you can have something. But we have so many calls that come in that people, I got a free dog off of Craigslist, and now it's got this issue, and they lied, and it this. Well, and that's why, yes, you have to pay an adoption fee, but you have a dog that you know everything's done with it medically, and you know it's been tested. And that it's going to be safe for your kids or for whatever. And that's a big deal.
Sure. And, you know, while we're talking about that, the other big deal is if you are surrendering an animal because of whatever reason, cost, or you're moving and you can't take it with you. I mean, truly can't take it with you, although that excuse kind of bothers me a little bit. But for whatever reason that you may be surrendering an animal, you know, please, please, please be honest on the form as to why you're surrendering it. If it's a dog and it's chewing, be honest about that. You know, it doesn't do anyone any good to think that they're getting this good, clean dog that isn't chewing, doesn't have any behavioral issues, and then you guys try to adopt it, and you're hearing back from the adopters saying, this dog chews, I don't want it, I'm giving it back to you.
And you may see some of those behaviors at the shelter, but you don't know if it's a product of being in the shelter or if that's what the dog was. And you're absolutely right. Our surrender form is quite lengthy, but I want as much information as possible. It's going to give that dog the best chance.
Exactly.
Or if there's something we need to work on, we'll work on it before it goes out.
Right. But if you don't know about it, you can't work on it. So if you are having to surrender an animal and you truly care about the future of that animal, please, for God's sake, be honest on the form and give it the best chance of being adopted, and give these guys or the shelter or wherever you're surrendering it to, give them the best chance possible to give your pet its best chance possible.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, that only makes sense. I mean, I'll just say a little personal thing here. I almost did not adopt a dog one time many, many years ago because the owners said, well, it chews. It's chewing up the kids' toys. Well, it was a puppy. So, of course, it doesn't understand the difference between its own toys and the people's toys. But they also said, oh, it's chewing the furniture, it's doing this, it's doing that. They over-exaggerated the problem to make it seem like they had a good enough reason to surrendering this dog. And it kind of scared me, Jim, it really did. But I thought, you know what, this dog, we just made a connection. Those eyes were just right here, and I thought, I'm going to give this dog a chance. That dog never chewed one piece of furniture in her life. Not one.
And sometimes it's environment. It just... some situations just don't work for the animal. There may be a stressor there that's causing them to lash out some way, and you get that dog in the next home, and it's like, nope, this is perfect. This is exactly what it needed. You know, so but yeah, people need to be honest.
Yeah, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, just be honest and don't embellish.
Exactly.
You know, because that doesn't help the situation either. So I want to talk about some of the other services that you have there. You know, our time is, gosh, it seems like we just began and we're down to about 15 minutes already. Because you mentioned baths and grooming
we do grooming.
services.
We have 2 independent contractor groomers.
And the nice thing about what you do, tell the folks.
Well, we're basically doing our own internal fundraising by doing the grooming, the doggy daycare, the boarding, and they have the retail store. It helps us be able to stay in the building and do the adoptions. We don't have to go venturing out and do a lot of fundraiser outside the building, and it's worked out really well. But we also offer training through our behavior consultant, and now we've got the vet on staff, things like that just get people in the door that would never walk in a shelter or humane society. And it's worked out really well for us because somebody's coming in for a dog groom, and all of a sudden they go, oh, that's a cute dog. Is that up for adoption? I got to tell my neighbor. And stuff like that, word of mouth that way has worked out really well.
Sure. Well, and it's nice. I mean, we've taken one of our dogs there to be groomed just the one time because typically we had never groomed him. You know, we tried the do-it-yourself method, just leaving. I didn't want to just shave him down completely, but I thought, let's give it a try. And so we took him in there. We were so pleased with the job that, I can't remember her. Kristen. We were so pleased with the job Kristen did. And it was nice for us because we knew that a certain percentage of that grooming fee was going back into the rescue operation itself. Sort of self-funding, like you said.
Exactly. And that's really been what we wanted to be unique and different, but sometimes the fundraising can keep people out of their business and taking care of their animals for a lot of hours in a weekend or a week, and being able to do everything in-house has been amazing. And it took us a little longer for the IRS to kind of understand, and all of a sudden we got a call one day from the lady. She said, I get it now. You're doing in-house fundraising. She goes, you're going to be approved. I get it. But she's like, it took me months to figure out what this was all about. She goes, I totally understand.
Yeah.
And that's been our concept, you know, is just I want to be able to stay there and do the adoptions. I don't want to be out all weekend, you know, and running around. We've got the dogs in the building. It makes it much easier to get them adopted.
Sure. Yeah, and your grooming prices, I mean, we can't get into a lot of commercialization here, but the grooming prices, even though part of it's going back into the rescue operation, are very comparable.
We tried, and
to any other for-profit operation.
Have really tried their best. All of them are on our website. If you go to newpawsibilities.com and click on the grooming tab, all the prices are listed. We have, we're pretty straightforward with everything, and they do a good service.
Yeah. And our little boy came home with a cute little bandana too, so which he loved, by the way.
Really...
When I took it off to wash it, I got the evil eye, and he was very possessive of that. So now he's in a bandana all the time.
Nice. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? Okay, let's talk about advice that you have for people, Jim, as they pursue whether or not they want to adopt, what would you say to them to, be thinking about, and what kind of a setup they should have and that kind of thing?
Biggest thing is talk. If you're a family or a couple or, whatever you are, talk to everybody in the home. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Have a general idea of what you're looking for. People come in and say, I just want a dog. Well, no. You kind of have an idea. I want a Shih Tzu, or I want something in that type of dog, or I want a 100-pound St. Bernard, or whatever. Have an idea, because it's going to help everybody kind of come together. One may want a large dog, one may want a small dog. Find that middle ground, and that's what I always tell people. If they're not sure, talk. You need to go home, talk some more, and that's the biggest thing. Be prepared. Just because you adopt a 2-year-old dog does not mean it's going to come in your house trained and ready to be the perfect companion. You're going to have to put some time into it, but they'll reward you.
Oh yeah.
But every dog is trainable. People, oh, it's 6 years old. Is it still trainable? Absolutely. It needs to get used to your schedule, your routine, and what's going to benefit that dog. And that's where the behavior consultant comes in. And we have a book that we give out with every adoption that Patricia McConnell has written.
Wonderful person.
And it just is,
she knows her stuff.
Helps people get through that first couple months. And it's very easy to read. So I send home a lot of times with kids. I had a couple nights ahead of time and just say, you got to sit down and read. And it's easy enough for them. But then when, if they speak with our consultant, she can say, turn to page 28. Here's what you're looking at. And this is, so that's been a real big benefit for us. And having the behavior consultant where she can kind of guide people.
Sure.
So we try and do a lot of talking. When you get the dog home, like I say, put some time in. We really encourage people to kennel their dogs at first until they get comfortable with the routine. We want people to come home and not be angry at a dog because it had an accident. So, we do encourage kenneling until you get comfortable, and then you can start letting them out more. But just kind of prepare, do some research, and check into breeds that you're thinking, you may not find that specific breed, but what direction? Do you want a dog you have to groom every 6 weeks? Do you want minimal care? Do you want active? What do you want? But to me, that's the biggest thing, is that as a family, as a couple, whatever, you need to communicate with each other and find what's going to fit. And are you committed to making this 15 to 20-year commitment? Sure,
yeah. Before we completely run out of time, we've got some pictures of some dogs that we want to put up here. And certainly this is just a small sampling
absolutely.
of what Jim and his folks over there have. But you can see it all on the website, and I hope that they've been putting the website address up as we've been going through the show. But let's take a look at those pictures of those cuties before we run out of time here. Who is this? What a doll.
This is Beagle Boy. Beagle Boy is a special guy. He has an old leg injury. He more than likely got hit by a car when he was down in Kentucky. Several vets have looked at his x-rays, and they just did some new ones yesterday. And basically, it is healed. It's not pretty, but it is healed. And we feel like if we open him up to pin it or something like that, it could be more damage than it's worth. So he's a smaller dog, 24 pounds, great personality, super outgoing. But he could potentially have arthritis as he gets older. But right now, you'd never know there's a problem.
And we all get arthritis as we get older.
Absolutely,
so.
And that's exactly it. We're actually doing a little physical therapy with him where we have him sit and get up and sit and get up, and it just helps to build that muscle.
Sure,
He's a great dog.
Excellent. All right. Oh, look at this one.
This is Carly. She actually has been out of the building this week. She's at Globe University having the vet tech students practice on her. And I've actually had 2 calls from the students saying, we love her, we want to adopt her. Sweet little Chihuahua, great personality. There's something about the Southern Chihuahuas. They're so ridiculously social. They're not yippy and yappy, and she's just got a great personality.
Well, so she's pretty much already spoken for,
hopefully,
isn't she?
But we'll see.
We'll see. But, if you're interested, give them a call.
Absolutely.
All right, who's next? Oh, now look.
This is another one of our little special needs boys. This is Jigs. He has something very unusual. When he's playing, he acts like a little wiggly puppy, but he's only about 4 months old. He actually has what looks like Parkinson's, and he shakes.
Okay.
There's a brainstem nerve connection that isn't being done correctly. Nothing we can really do for it at this time. Some of his siblings had it as well. They outgrew it, there's potential that he will. So we're hoping within the next year that he'll actually outgrow it. Super nice little guy, though.
Jigs.
Yes.
That's adorable. And I think we've got one more, don't we? There we go.
That is Samson. He is the sweetest boy and just very easygoing. Actually, kind of the boy that everybody picks on in the group.
Really?
Because he's so submissive and he just wants love. And all the other dogs, even the little chihuahuas, kind of push him to a corner and he just goes fine. But he's so sweet and playful.
Now, I just want to interject something here, Jim. Now that is what most people would look at and say, there's a pit bull.
Absolutely.
I mean, it looks to me like a Staffordshire Terrier mix. Yep. And, you know, for any dog who says pits or pit mixes or whatever are aggressive and mean, and here he is being pushed around by a little chihuahua.
Yeah, and we're very specific. I mean, we try to make sure that the temperament's been pushed to the limit and check testing him, and he's just a doll.
Oh, my God. He's beautiful. He's beautiful. So I like Jigs, and or Mr. Jigs, whatever, and I like this one. And what was this one's name?
This is Samson.
Samson. Yes. All right. Well, I'm at my limit of dogs that I can have in the city, but they're adorable.
Thank you.
We're just down to a couple minutes of time left, and I just want to make sure that we've covered everything that you wanted us to cover and that I wanted to cover.
Sure.
I know one thing that we didn't talk about, and this number was staggering to me. You told me a month or two ago when we first started talking about you coming on, how many dogs you guys have placed in the 3 and almost half years that you've been in business.
A little over 3,000.
That's amazing.
And it's been really amazing. It's far exceeded what I could have ever fathomed.
Yeah.
But it's been great support from the community.
Yeah. So just a little under 1,000 a year.
Correct.
And that is outstanding.
My goal the first year was 25. That was my goal. It literally was my goal.
Oh my God! You really you undersold yourself, didn't you?
A little bit.
just a little bit. What haven't we covered here tonight, Jim? That you think
we're always
people should
open
know?
to volunteers. We have volunteer opportunities, whether it be coming and cleaning, whether it be walking dogs. You know, we've always got volunteer opportunities. If nothing else, stop in, talk to us. We're always open to explaining. If you don't quite understand what we're doing, please stop in. We're very much an open book. We will talk to anybody we can. And again, the website address is newpawsibilities.com. And one thing, do you ever experience animals being returned for one reason or another? Once in a while. We did talk about that a little bit. Yep, we do, once in a while. And we have about a 5 to 10% return rate, which national average is about 25% for rescues and shelters. I was going to say, that's really not too bad. And like I said, having the behaviorist consultant on staff and that type of thing has really made a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And as far as boarding, yes. You know, what kinds of things, I mean, what are your boarding fees like? Sure. Typically for one dog, $20 a day. Mm-hmm. So dropping off today, picking up tomorrow is $20. Mm-hmm. The dogs are not in kennels, except unless you want it that way. They'll get to be in play group for 13 hours a day, playing with the other dogs. And then at night and feeding time, they do go in their kennel. We have big walk-in kennels for them. But for 2 dogs, $30 a day for the pair. For 3 dogs, it has now gone up to $37. Okay. And we try and make it affordable for people that they can get their dogs in and not feel like they can't board them. Mm-hmm. Doggy daycare is $15 a day, $7.50 for 4 hours or less. Okay. And all of those things, some of that is going back into the operation? All of it goes right back in. The boarding and the doggy daycare and stuff all goes right back into the operation, helps keep the lights on. Okay, excellent. Give us your address again. Sure, 2300 Algoma Boulevard, and phone number is 920-385-0809. 385-0809, and it's 2300 Algoma Boulevard. Yep. All right. Well, I am so glad that you were finally able to come on. Appreciate it very much. You're out of sick bay. Hopefully you'll stay there. Exactly. And, you know, please, if you're considering getting a pet, don't go to a pet store. I don't think too many sell dogs or cats anymore, but
I still see a Time Warner Cable ad out there that says, "Where's the pet store? Where's the nearest pet store?"
Right.
It's annoying.
Right.
Don't even get me started on Time Warner Cable, even though we are on cable right now. But if you're considering adopting, please consider rescues or shelters.
Absolutely.
That is where you're going to get your best bang for your buck and the best pet and family member that you could possibly hope to have. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
We appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to the crew. Thanks again to Jim, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.